guys, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. This time I'm doing my top 10 favorite graphic novels, at least as of the beginning of March of 2020. So these are just like their graphic novels or manga or some other like illustrated art, but not serialized like a comic book is, because that's a completely different list. I took into account the Goodreads ratings that I gave them, focusing on 5-star ratings, and then also looking at which ones did I actually like enough to go buy, and which ones do I like enough to like recommend to other people consistently, as well as just like when I saw these titles, like gut feelings about where they ranked. The actual like 10 to 1 doesn't really matter so much as these are like consistently my favorites. They kind of like go all over the place. So at number 10, I have Husbands. This is by Brad Bell and Jane Epstein. Also, side note, all the artists and writers will be down in the description below, as well as this complete list and links to the reviews I did for each of these. So if I forget any of the artists, I apologize, but they'll be down there. Okay, so Husbands is a companion to a web series about two guys that get married. It's kind of like they're both celebrities and they get drunk and then they get married, and because of the whole how underrepresented they are in culture, they decide to stick with this wedding, this marriage, commit to it for a while for the sake of the publicity. But this graphic novel you could read completely independent of that, and this one maybe fits more in a comic book. They're individual chapters that each tell a story. But basically, one of their wedding gifts is this magic book, and as they open it, it throws them into these different stories, and they have to live them out, find each other to get out, or at least get to the next chapter until they finally escape. I thought it was really funny. It takes into a lot of storytelling tropes, which, you know, as a book nerd, I loved. Also just LGBT representation, and their neighbor is so funny, and she's actually, I think, better in here and more tolerable because she's so over the top in the web series that it like tones her down a bit. But she's like their drunk best friend, who also shows up in a lot of these stories, and I just love seeing all the different tropes that they played with. So, yay, Husbands. Ones that I don't own. I Am Alfonso Jones tells the story of a boy named Alfonso Jones, a black teenager who is shot. He is shopping, he's looking at clothes, he's holding up a hanger, and an off-duty police officer mistakes it for a handgun and shoots him and kills him. And then he takes this journey in the afterlife where he's on this train with all these other black martyrs, historical figures that have died, and they start telling their stories to him. You know, other people who have been shot either by police or by groups, lynchings, and just a way to introduce all these different stories and also look at the broader scope of what's happening now as like a continuation of things that have happened in the past. We also see Alfonso Jones, his ghost, looking at the people around him and how his community is dealing with his death and dealing with his friends and his family and his classmates. So dark stuff, but also really poignant. And then I also really like El Deafo. This is about a young girl who is deaf, who uses a hearing aid, but it like boosts her hearing enough that she now has like supersonic hearing with it. So with the hearing aid, she can hear better than the rest of her classmates, and it works by her teacher wearing this microphone. And so her teacher like forgets to turn it off sometimes, and she can hear the conversations even if they're not in the same room. And so this is her being a superhero and using that information to like save the day. And it's just absolutely adorable. It's like a children's graphic novel. I highly recommend. The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. So this one is about a prince named Sebastian who likes dressing up in women's dresses occasionally. And so he enlists this dressmaker to make outfits for him. And she's an up-and-coming artist. This is going to be great for her. And so they start working together and designing together. And he goes out at night just completely dressed up as a woman and becomes a socialite with his own like her own like alter ego and identity. She becomes kind of famous for that, but he can't tell anybody that like they're the same person because he's a prince and he can't let the family image down. And it's delightful. It's historical fiction, and just like the art on the actual dresses is adorable. I have Sisters by Raina Telgemeier. I love any of Raina Telgemeier's graphic novels. They are all adorable and light and just cute children's graphic novels that tell stories that like resonate. And Sisters in particular I like because it's about two sisters and a road trip. and it, like, the dynamic of the two of them stuck in a small space together and like getting on each other's nerves and hating each other until things go absolutely horrible, and then they have this moment of bonding over the horrible experience. And I love that. I appreciate that, having, you know, three sisters and a brother, so having all these sibling dynamics, and so that's the one that I relate to the most. I also picked Emma, which is a historical graphic, or it's a manga actually, and this one tells a story about a maid called Emma, and just like being in the Victorian environment, like I really appreciate it. I love the historical fiction. I love seeing it from like the servant's perspective, but also she's in a grand house, and so we also get to peek into the life of the well-off in that community, and just I love it. It's set in Victorian England, so fun. My number 4 pick is Library Wars. It's another manga. This one is about a not too distant future where the government has started censoring and become more dictator-like, but they are specifically censoring books, and the libraries are fighting back to the point that they've developed their own military force or their own army. So you've got the librarians who are like collection specialists, like we have now, who curate the books and like loan them to people. But then you've also got this army faction of that, and we're focusing mostly on people who have gone into the service from a military standpoint and defending the libraries with guns and fighting against the government. And it's so awesome. It's such a great look at censorship and about the importance of freedom of information and having things available and what books mean to each of these people. Even the people who are more like jocks and more military, they wouldn't necessarily think would enjoy books, but like it's important to them. That's why they joined this instead of the government. At number 3, I have Tales of Mystery and Madness. These are stories by Edgar Allan Poe that have drawing by Chris Grimley. This one is more like illustrated, an illustrated novel than like a normal graphic novel, though there are some panels in it, and it's literally just the text from Edgar Allan Poe with Chris Grimley's drawings, and they blend so well together. They are so much fun and dark and creepy and spooky, and I love it. It's one of my favorite Halloween reads, so highly recommend. There's another one he did, and I don't remember the name of it, that's more Edgar Allan Poe, and then he's done stuff like Frankenstein. Chris Grimley has done Frankenstein. Yes. I didn't know to count this as a graphic novel or not, but technically it's a novel and it has graphic elements. And I really, really love rereading it. Number 1 and 2 are kind of like on level, so I wasn't sure which was my most favorite. So I'm picking Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell with art by Faith Erin Hicks. This is the story of 2 kids on their senior year of high school. Last night they're going to be working at this pumpkin festival that they have been doing. Like, this is their last night that they're working at this pumpkin patch that they have been doing all through high school, and they've developed this friendship over the course of 4 years. But they're only friends at the pumpkin patch. So they're facing the fact that this is their last night together. So they spend the whole night getting the guy, Josie, to talk to the girl he likes, and his best friend, Deja, helping him out with that. But it's about friendship, and it's about the memories we make together, and about like saying goodbye and getting ready for the next stage in our lives. And it's all set around this pumpkin patch. There are hilarious side gags, like this kid that keeps stealing Deja's food every time she tries to find something to eat for the night, and he like runs off with a caramel apple. Later on he's stealing other food from her, or her food is, you know, going missing some other ways. They get into all kinds of crazy antics. Okay. And then my final pick is Wires and Nerve by Marissa Meyer. There's also a second volume of this, Wires and Nerves Gone Rogue, and they happen after the Lunar Chronicles. So these are dystopian fairy tale retellings where Cinder and her friends try to defeat this evil lunar queen who is trying to take over all of Earth, and they slowly start gathering more friends until we've got this really large group that are all working together to defeat her. So those books are Cinder, Scarlet Cress, and Winter. If you haven't read those, do that before reading this graphic novel or even listening to the summary, honestly. I'll post the link to the review for Cinder Book 1 down there also in the description. But the graphic novels take place after they've defeated the Lunar Queen, and Cinder and the gang are basically in charge, and we see what they're doing afterwards. We see Cinder stepping up and becoming queen. We see her friends helping her out, but they also each go off and have their own side story. And we're focusing a lot on Aiko, who she's still a robot, but now she's got like a more humanoid android body than like the traditional robot one she started with. And she's like so excited to like have hair and can wear clothes because she was obsessed with fashion. And now she's actually got like a body for it. So those are my top 10 favorite graphic novels and manga. Let me know in the comments below what are your favorites, which ones do you recommend. Like I said, I will post the full review, links to the full reviews down there because I have read and reviewed all of these. Yeah. So, hope you enjoyed this. Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.